Ian Highlands here. How you doing? A couple months ago, I did a shoot in California with my buddy Kurt Voorhees, shooting for the new Deity Lockjaw grip. And after it was all done, I posted some photos to Instagram, like this one. A few people asked about the lighting. They were really curious about how I managed to shoot straight into the sun and not have Kurt all washed out and to have him lit up. So I thought this would be a great time to talk about the new AD200Pro lights that I'm using. These ones are from Godox. Right out of the box, the AD200 is a pretty cool flash. I got mine as a set from B&H. It came with 2 flashes, as well as this Godox transmitter for Sony, which works really well with my camera. And also this guy. This is a really cool little flash bracket. It allows you to put up to 2 of their bare bulb heads on the front and 1 or 2 flashes on the back. So you can have up to 400 watt seconds of light in this one unit with a standard Bowens mount in the front, which is really cool. The AD200Pro comes with 2 different heads, but straight out of the box, it's got this one on it. It's a Fresnel head, like a speed light. Unfortunately, this one doesn't zoom. All the controls are at the back, and this head comes off, and you can put this guy on there. This is a bare bulb attachment, and it just snaps right on, real easy, and reminds me a lot of the old Quantum or Norman or Dynalite flashes, which actually I think of Quantum because that's what I used to use back in the day. This is a Quantum T2D, and you can see there it's got the bare bulb with a parabolic reflector, and the light seems really similar, and this is what I used to use all the time. And in fact, this guy doesn't actually come with a reflector, but the reflector from my old Quantums will fit right on here, and I've been using it like this with this reflector, and it's rad. And actually, the AD200Pro is really similar to the old Quantums in a lot of ways, but it's way better. It's smaller, it's lighter, and it puts out a lot more light. The Quantum T2D that I was using was rated for around 100 watt seconds. The newest Quantum is, I think, 150. This guy is listed at 200 watt seconds, so twice as much light. And this is the real kicker for me, with this guy here, the remote control TTL for Sony, and there's actually a newer, nicer one that I may or may not get. I'm not sure if I need it. But with this guy, I can shoot high-speed sync with this flash straight out of the box. No problems with my Sony A9 with all of my lenses, even manual fisheye. Now, I don't really want to get into detail on high-speed sync here in this video. I'll do another video later that goes into a deep dive on that topic. But it's good to note that when I first started shooting Sony in around 2015, you could not really do high-speed sync with the Sony cameras. And for me, that was a huge thing because for the, probably 6-7 years before that, that's really all I shot with my Nikon cameras and Pocket Wizard transmitters. And whether it was my Elinchrom flashes or my Nikon flashes or even the Quantums, I could shoot 1/1600th of a second and have my flashes sync up. Sometimes it took a little bit of work, but I could make it work. And with the Sony, not so much. But then, in 2017, that all changed. Elinchrom came out with this guy, the EL Skyport Plus HS transmitter, and the HS head, with HS standing for high speed. And that suddenly allowed me to shoot high speed sync again, or an Elinchrom's version of it, which is high sync. And it worked really well, except there was one problem. It didn't work with anything but Sony lenses. And for those of you that shoot Sony, you know Sony doesn't make a fisheye. So I use this guy a lot, which is a manual Rokinon fisheye. It's a really beautiful lens. I love it. I use it for a lot of stuff, but I couldn't shoot high-speed sync with it. And for photos like this one of Kurt, where I'm looking straight into the sun, the fisheye makes it way better. With the fisheye lens, the sun is really small in the picture, and it doesn't blow everything out like when you're shooting with a tighter lens. So along comes the AD200Pro, and it works perfectly out of the box, just like this, with their transmitter, this guy, and I can shoot high-speed sync with all of my lenses, including the Rokinon fisheye. Even with the Rokinon fisheye, they sync up 1/1600th of a second, no problem at all. It's all good. So, how do I make these photos like the one of Kurt here, where I'm shooting straight into the sun and the athlete's all lit up and beautiful, the sky is still dark blue? How do I do that without getting everything blown out? It starts with the gear we just talked about. Number one, something like this Rokinon fisheye. Doesn't need to be a fisheye, it doesn't need to be Rokinon, it could be any kind of fisheye or a wide angle lens. The Sony 16-35 I use a lot, it's awesome. Anything over 35 and things start to soften up and everything starts to get this kind of a glow, especially when you point it straight into the sun. 70 into the sun and everything just starts to turn white and soft. The other thing I use is flashes like these Godox AD200Pros that we just talked about, and I use them to light up my subject, get rid of the shadows, make everything really pop. And again, it doesn't have to be those flashes, but they work for me. I really like the high-speed sync function of them. I shot these photos at a 1600th of a second at f4, which allows me to freeze the action with the camera shutter speed and not using the flash. So the camera shutter is doing the heavy lifting, the flash is just lighting things up. Back in the day, we shot without high-speed sync, and we were shooting at a 250th or a 200th of a second, and the flash had to freeze the action, and that comes down to the flash duration. But that is another whole video that we can dive deep into flash duration and sync speeds and how that all works. I'd wanted to show the difference between some of these reflectors that you can use with it, with the bare bulb, and light output. You know, this flash bracket, this is that bracket with two AD200Pros on it and two of those flash tubes in the front. And if I use that with something like this is a big telephoto reflector with a Bowens mount on it. And this gives me like a really kind of a giant flash. Not giant as in size, although this is pretty big. You know, bigger is better, right? Until you have to carry it. But this telephoto reflector is going to blast that light way out there instead of wide. So effectively, it's going to create a lot more light on my subject than this will. This will light up a lot more this way. But just when I was getting ready to do that, this guy showed up. This is a Magbeam Wildlife Kit from Magmod. And this is it's a telephoto Fresnel add-on that Magmod makes a whole bunch of magnetic attachments to go on the front of your speedlight. And these basically fit those adapters. So this is a Fresnel that will focus the light into a really tight beam. Tighter, I think, than this telephoto reflector. So I should be able to use one of these on each light and get a lot of light output. So that's another video coming up as well. Hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments if there's something else you'd like to know. And until next time, cheers. Have a good one.